This episode was sponsored by Shortform.
Hey guys, it's Justin here, and today I feel like crap. Why? Because I've got COVID, and here I am making a video for you. But why else do I feel like crap? Because I've got 900 pages of this textbook I still need to study in the next 3 days. And instead of just going in and studying it like any normal human person would do, I decided, you know what? This is a learning point. It's a learning opportunity for you guys. So me feeling sick and having to study all this stuff, I'm feeling this is overwhelming. You know, I don't know how good my cognitive function is right now. I can tell you for sure. My focus isn't amazing, but I still need to get through this stuff. So the normal way that I've experienced that most people would think about this is that, okay, well, let's do some reverse goal setting, right? I've got 900 pages of a textbook to get through. Okay, honestly, about 50 pages of its references. So 850 pages, okay? Let's assume that across 850 pages, at least 50 pages are not going to be that useful. So be optimistic, 800 pages I'm going to need to go through. So if I've got 3 days, that means that I need to be doing like 270 pages roughly per day across the next 3 days, right? So if I can hit 270 pages per day across the next 3 days, I should be good. Now I've got roughly 6 hours per day blocked out for studying, which is a lot of time. I put aside a lot to get through this. And if that's the way that you're thinking about it, then that's not the right way to think about this. I tell you, man, my brain is not moving fast right now. The right way to think about it is not in terms of a linear order of a textbook, because let's say that you weren't learning it from a textbook. Let's say that you were learning it with the same knowledge, all the knowledge in the textbook, but instead of learning it through a textbook, you were learning it through someone teaching it to you. And this person that's teaching it to you, they know everything, they have all the knowledge, and they've decided they're going to teach it to you in the way that makes the most sense for you, that makes the most sense for your brain, that you feel is the most relevant, is the easiest path for learning. What do you think are the chances that the way that this person teaches it to you, and the way that's optimized for your brain and how you know it, is going to be the exact same order and way it's taught as this textbook, which was written by these two authors that I'm sure know their stuff. You know, I'm sure they're experts, but they don't know what exactly is relevant for you. They don't know your knowledge level. They don't know your experiences. They don't know what's going to be exactly relevant and what's going to make the most sense for you. And so this is something that I've talked about quite often. So when I think about learning this across the next 3 days, I'm not thinking about it in terms of page numbers, number of pages I need to get to, because I know that that is a meaningless measurement of progress. Because not every page is the same density of concepts. Not every page is in the order it really should be in terms of what makes the most sense in my brain, is the most relevant for me. So what I should do is I should go through this and think about it in terms of breaking up the entirety of the knowledge into those 3 days. So on day 1, I want to build a fundamental understanding about what I'm learning. I want to have a basic but broad understanding. I want to develop myself to the level of expertise where the next level of detail is more relevant, more meaningful, more interesting, more engaging, makes more sense for me. And I'm not going to be able to do that by starting at the beginning and just working progressively in a linear order. Some concepts that allow me to understand page 120 might be presented in page 500. And it doesn't mean that the textbook was written badly. It's just that for me, maybe that would have been easier to do it in that order. So I'm never going to know that if I stick to a linear order, which is why I never encourage linear orders of learning, because a linear order of learning, although it might make sense on paper literally, it's often not actually logical for your brain, cognitively speaking. So I'm going to be skimming through this book. I'm going to be picking out what feels relevant. I'm going to be skipping over a lot of stuff that doesn't feel relevant. And I'm going to spend my time and effort on day 1 going through the entire 800 pages. Yes, you heard me correctly. I'm going to go through 800 pages in a single day. But the volume of information I go through is going to be the equivalent of maybe 75 pages, 100 pages. It's still quite a lot, but I've got 6 hours, remember? So I'm going to go through roughly, let's say, 100 pages worth of actual knowledge. But that's going to be the knowledge spread within this entire book that is the most relevant for me, that makes the most sense, that's the easiest for me to understand and wrap my head around. And it's going to create a lot of anchor points. It's going to create a really strong schema, a really strong foundation for me to start working from. And then on day 2, I'm going to go through the same 800 pages again. And this time, slightly different things are going to be more relevant for me. Different things are going to make more sense because I have more prior knowledge than I did the day before, aka today. So tomorrow, I'll have more knowledge than I do right now because I spent time to build a foundation. So do you see, as I learn more, these anchor points are allowing the later learning to become easier. So tomorrow, I'll be going through another 800 pages, but again, maybe only 100 to 200 pages worth of knowledge. But I'm able to consume more because I have more reference points. I have more anchor points. There are more ways things feel relevant, and there are more ways things feel interesting. And so from my brain's perspective, it's easier to understand, it's easier to process, it's easier to make sense of and apply, and ultimately easier to hold on to retain, and to develop that high level of mastery for. And on day 3, I'm going to go through the 800 pages again, but this time I'm focusing on just those details that I've missed. Will I have 100% retention and high level of mastery across 3 days? No. If I was studying for an exam, which I'm not, would that be a problem? Potentially. But if you're studying a 1,000 page textbook in 3 days for an exam where you actually have to do well, that's another problem. Like, you shouldn't be in that position. But if I was studying an exam, I'd probably get the best mark I possibly could get, given that I only studied for 3 days. Is it going to be enough for me to achieve my own goals of why I'm learning this? Yes, definitely. In fact, I might be able to do that in just 2 days. But I've got COVID, so I gave myself another day for buffer, right? It sounds intense to go through almost 1,000 pages in a single day. It sounds enormous. It's not. It's not, because you're not covering every single piece of content within that space. What you're doing is you're scanning through to find the parts that are relevant. You can only hold so much, right? The human brain's got a capacity for how much it can handle. Across an entire day, 50 to 100 pages, that's going to be a stretch. No matter how smart you are, once you fill that 50 to 100 pages worth of information across 6, 7, 8 hours, you're pretty much done. So you need to make sure that that content you are filling it with is the most relevant, the most efficient, the one that gives you the most leverage, the one that puts you in the best position so that tomorrow even more things will make sense. So for me, that first of all makes it less overwhelming, because I know that I'm not going to have to stretch myself too far to make sense of something, because I'm literally going to pick the path of least resistance. I'm picking the path of highest relevance.
Hey guys, it's Justin from the future here. I'm recovered from COVID. Now, you might be wondering, what if you don't want to read an 800-page textbook and then realize that you missed something, or this was the wrong book to be reading in the first place? Well, the sponsors of this video have got you covered. Short form, yes, they are one of the rare sponsorship requests that I accept, because I think that what they do actually is helpful. So the way that short form works is it's kind of like a book summary, but it's more like a book guide. You'll get this summary of all of these different books, but the key thing, and I think this is the reason that it's useful, is that they compare different books and articles and sources against each other. So when you read one book, you're not just getting the value of that one book. The person that's writing that guide is also comparing the ideas from that particular book with other prominent sources of that same topic. So it means that even if you didn't know that there's a better book to read, as you go through the guide, you'd naturally find these references to these other books, and then you could go and read those as well. And it's not just AI, there's stuff about business, finance, personal development, even learning. So there's a lot of different genres that you can pick from. And if there's a book that you really want, but they don't have it, you can actually vote for books, and they upload new books every single week. If you're interested, check out my link in the description. It's shortform.com/Justin Sung. You get 5 days of unlimited access and 20% off an annual subscription.
So a lot of people often say, well, Justin, aren't you going to learn this out of order? What if you miss something? And again, I'm always saying this. Yes, it's out of order on paper, but it's in order for your brain. And am I going to miss something? Yes. But if I do this enough times, maybe not 3 days, if I had a week, my 4th or 5th time, I'm not missing anything, because I'm allowing myself to go through and pick up on those areas that I missed. Honestly, I'm starting to sweat from making this video. I think speaking and making this video is going to be the hardest thing that I do today. The learning itself shouldn't be too bad because I'm picking that path of least resistance. Yes, it can feel overwhelming when you first start, but it's not too bad. And you can get your head around it and this concept and this method of learning pretty easily. It takes some time, but it's just another habit that you can build. And then once you've got that habit, it's a tool. It's in your arsenal. You can use this whenever you need to. You're not going to have the situation where you need to study 1,000 pages of a textbook in 3 days while you've got COVID too many times in your life. But it just means that when you do need to learn new information, the feeling of being overwhelmed is a sign that you're not seeing the relevance. So to reduce the overwhelm, you just need to find the path of relevance. When things are relevant, things make sense more easily. It's easier to cover more content. If you don't have the prior knowledge to create relevance, then you need to work on creating the right prior knowledge to put yourself in a position where you've got good relevance. So any new information you start with, you always have prior knowledge to work with. Start with that prior knowledge, find what's relevant, build the foundation, and then the next day, you've now got more prior knowledge. If you only built 1 chapter's worth of prior knowledge, and that chapter was very specific and detailed about very singular aspect of the entire topic, that's not much leverage. You're not going to be able to expand that out into the entire rest of the topic. So instead of studying 100 units of something really detailed, actually would have been better to study 100 units of superficially the entire topic. Because now you've got more anchor points, you've got more ways to make things relevant. And it's going to make it easier for you on day 2, day 3, day 4, so on and so forth. The other thing is, with this particular textbook, I know it actually does a really great job of listing out and explaining some of the fundamental across the whole topic principles that are covered in the entire book. So for me, even if I spend the entire of day 1 today covering only 45 pages, but that 45 pages I know is fundamental to the entire textbook. Maybe the rest of the textbook is just explaining each of those points in more depth, chapter by chapter, and that's still time well spent. Even though I only covered 5% of what I needed to cover in terms of page numbers, in terms of actual knowledge, it was actually fine because I laid a firm, solid foundation. So anyway, just sharing a bit of perspectives before I actually dive into the studying, because I know this way of thinking is uncommon and it's so powerful once you can start thinking about learning this way. It gives you a lot more control, because if you don't do it this way, you're always going to be fighting against your brain, trying to discard information because it doesn't feel relevant. Anyway, that's enough talking. My voice is really starting to go now. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next one.